Okay. So on the summary, there's lots of information with attached links, and I wanted to just sort of remind people to take a good look through that, because we're hoping that this is a mechanism for you to, for us to sort of keep everyone posted on new developments. We have this new section in YouTube with lots of new videos that are happening there. We have course 3 that's opened up in our courses. And we have lots of different, we have the scavenger hunt that's just opened that we know people are already using during PD sessions. So make sure you take a look at the summary, because it'll link you to lots of things. And of course, it stays live, so you can always have it after the meetings. And then, as I mentioned, Barb is in Louisiana, and Louisiana is having a Striving Readers meeting, and so we have posted the agenda. It seems to be a pretty, it's organized in really interesting ways. There's a day of school visits followed by a day of meetings, and so a lot of that is LDC related. So we thought that we would draw your attention to that. There's information on the Louisiana partner page as well that has their agendas as well as the PowerPoints that they're using for that meeting. So that's kind of the overview, and I'm hoping that you've had a chance to read through that. And then we wanted to open things up for discussion, and we have a couple people who are going to talk today. And we had a, I think, really exciting Twitter chat last night hosted by some faculty from our partner ASCD. And so Kristen is here, Kristen Olson from ASCD is here to talk a little bit about their professional development model and how they're thinking about virtual and blended PD. So Kristen, I know you have some slides to share, and you're going to show those to us while you talk. Is that right?
Hi guys, this is Kristen. Can you all hear me now?
Yep.
I think we can hear you.
Okay, great. And hopefully you can see PowerPoint slides?
Yep, looks great.
Okay, can you see this PowerPoint slides? All right, wonderful. Well, I just wanted, Barb had asked me to share with you guys a project that we're working on in conjunction with the Gates Foundation. And it is a series of webinars and then using our social networking page. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the project and then some lessons learned. So we started the project in December of 2013, and basically the idea was to get problems of practice from the field and try to do a series of 9 webinars, one in each of the subject areas. So we have an ELA, a mathematics, a science, and a social studies faculty member leading those. And then we have ongoing support through our Edge site, and I'll show you some of the screenshots from that. And again, one of the goals was really just to make it virtual and to be able to reach people from across the country. So there have been 9 webinars. We've done 8 of them. We have our final one in March. And those have delved into the different problems of practice. So last year we focused a lot on the shifts in instruction that are required by the Common Core state standards. And this year we've really gone into more hands-on. We did a series on student engagement. We did a webinar on lesson planning with a standards-based model. The last one we just did was looking at formative assessment and performance tests. And our final one in March is going to be looking at student work and what are some methods and the purpose for using student work in our classrooms. And then between webinars, ASCD's social media site is called ASCD Edge, and each group has its own section in the Edge site that you can join, ask questions of the faculty members post extra resources, and it's a place for different educators to come together and share resources and ask questions. So like I said, for this school year, there's been 3 so far. Our last one is in March, and I've got the registration links here. If anyone is interested in participating in them, I'm happy to email the links out also. They are free, and they are an hour long. They take place at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on those dates, and all of the old ones are archived on the site, so I'll show you the site in a second and you can kind of see what they are. But really the goal of our virtual learning and what we're doing is to try to get educators to join in, to engage, to share ideas and questions, to learn, and to teach. And that goes from all different perspectives of teaching each other, teaching our students, and really collaborating with that work. So this is the ASCD Edge site. You can go in, I've got the Science VLN as a screenshot there to show you. If you search for Science VLN, ELA VLN, Math ELN, or Social Studies VLN, the groups will come up and then you can see the different conversations.
On the agenda, if you want to, Dana, if you want to switch back over to me, on the agenda, you'll see the links to those, the Twitter chats, so that if you have, I'm sorry, not the Twitter chats, to the ASCD webinars, they're down here in the bottom in the What Next section. So if you have people who are interested in taking them, or if you'd be interested in messaging those out to your community, then the links are down here at the bottom of the agenda. So I don't know if we can get questions to Kristen. Yeah, she's saying that if you have questions for her, please email her, and her email is in the chat there, and of course she's on the contact list. So if you have questions about those ASCD webinars, get in touch with her. So that's a very exciting resource for both coaches and for teachers. All right, thank you, Kristen. We're sorry we can't hear you, but people will get in touch with you with questions. Again, at the bottom of the agenda here are the links to those webinar sites. Okay, we also have Michelle Lewis here from Puget Sound, who's been doing a lot of work with LDC professional development and has some ideas to share with us about blended and virtual PD and how to support LDC teachers. So Michelle, are you there? Michelle? Is Michelle there? Today is our technical
Michelle, if you just go ahead and unmute yourself, we'll be able to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me okay now?
Yep, that's great.
Yep, okay, great. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about our Puget Sound Teacher Leader project. I think that there is a link to a document with some information that I will refer to in my short presentation. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we are using LDC with 25 teacher leaders who work with us. And this work is really a small part of a larger body of work that these teacher leaders are doing. So these teachers are really focused on using social media to amplify teacher voice, specifically on the topic of Common Core. So just a little bit of background on PSCSD so that you sort of understand our context. We are a regional service agency that serves 35 school districts in 2 counties in Washington State. The population in the 2 counties comprises about 40% of the state population in Washington and includes both the Seattle and Tacoma metropolitan area. Our Puget Sound Teacher Leader project is in its 2nd year. We just launched our 2nd cohort. We increased the number of teacher leaders from 10 to 25, and they represent 12 different school districts and a whole variety of grade levels and content areas. And while I am the project director, much of the facilitation and the work that's done, both virtually and face-to-face, both around LDC and social media, is really led by the teacher leaders themselves. So among our cadre, we have folks that are really seasoned LDC teachers and folks that have been leading work around our region in terms of using social media as a tool to amplify teacher voice for a really long time. And we, in fact, at the ESD have learned quite a bit from them over the past year and a half. So as I mentioned, our real goal is to amplify teacher voice around Common Core using social media. And so one of our goals is to create a space for teachers to really talk about high quality tools to support instruction that are aligned with Common Core. And in order to provide a shared learning experience on this topic and a common language and a framework for planning around Common Core, we have introduced them to LDC. And specifically, this body of work is facilitated by 2 of our teacher leaders from Bonnie Lake High School in the Sumner School District. And they, this year, a change is that we are shifting from a focus on modules to more of a focus on mini tasks. And this was basically based on feedback from our teacher leaders. And our facilitators decided that this year we would be really focused on mini tasks in core tools that really support close reading. They felt that that was a really great leverage point for the particular group of teachers that we are working with this year. So they will be coming together this Saturday for a deep dive around LDC mini tasks and core tools. Each teacher is inviting a colleague or 2 from their schools to attend with them so that they can plan with someone and also help build awareness around LDC in their building and help spread the word. And then during this session, our Puget Sound teacher leaders will not just be learning about the content around LDC, but they'll also have some time to step back and think about, okay, how can they use what they're learning to feed into the blog posts that they post on our Collaborate website. And I'm going to share the link to that website in the comment box. So that's where we post all of the blogs that the teacher leaders write. So our hope is that they will be blogging about LDC as a tool, and that they'll use their blogs as an opportunity to reflect on their instruction. And they'll also be, we have some teacher leaders that are really focused on blogging and some that are focused on Twitter. So we'll have some upcoming Twitter discussions that are focused around close reading, and I'll talk about that more in just a moment. And then in the months of February and March, the same groups of teachers will come back to, will collaborate virtually using core tools and give one another feedback on their mini tasks that they'll be implementing. They'll come back for some more face-to-face sessions to analyze student work around the mini tasks. And then in May, they will be hosting a tweet up on the topic of LDC and close reading for teachers across the region. So this will be, again, all led by the Puget Sound teacher leaders, but the tweet up the intended audience is non-teacher leaders from around our region. And for those of you unfamiliar with the term tweet up, this is a face-to-face convening for which Twitter is used to help facilitate communication between people in the room, but also a back channel to reach an audience outside the room. So specifically on that day, we'll do a short presentation on LDC and core tools and mini tasks, and then we'll have a panel discussion. And the panel will be comprised of our teacher leaders who will be talking about close reading, LDC, their experience with LDC, and then we'll have a Twitter chat using the LDC chat hashtag with teachers in the room, but also teachers outside of the room as well to engage them in the discussion. And then throughout the year, kind of not listed here on the handout, sort of an oversight of mine, there'll be 5 virtual PLCs that will be focused on mini tasks for continued work throughout the year. So again, our teacher blogs can be found on the Collaborate website, and we also host 2 Twitter chats per month around standards implementation. That's our hashtag WaTeachLead chat, and then we also run a second chat that's really focused on our teacher effectiveness model. It's called TPEP chat, and really LDC comes up all the time in those 2 chats, which are run by our teacher leaders because they're really usually very excited about LDC and really advocating and trying to spread the word around the tools through social media through these chats. That sort of summarizes our approach with this one particular group, and feel free to shoot me questions via email, or happy to answer questions here if there's time.
Yeah, let's see. I certainly have some, but let's see what folks are thinking or if they have questions. Does anyone have questions for Michelle? And if you do, then Dana's unmuted you so you're able to speak. Not one question. Michelle, I actually have a question because I noticed that your teachers are really active in our LDC Twitter chats also. So I'm curious how you gained momentum on this. You had a lot of teachers, these teacher leaders who started using Twitter, or how did you start this sort of momentum?
That's an excellent question. So we actually started first with teachers that were really active in social media and also known to be like really accomplished teacher leaders. That was sort of like people that we were looking for, and they all had pretty established networks on Twitter, and so they basically came here not knowing very much about LDC. We took them through some LDC focused professional learning last year, and they became quick advocates for LDC when they saw the value of LDC in their classrooms, and sort of through their networks have participated in other chats, continued to gain followers in those chats. And then one thing that we do during our face-to-face tweet-ups is we do sort of a mini lesson on how to use Twitter for professional learning. So we encourage people to come to those face-to-face sessions who are maybe new to Twitter to increase the number of teacher leaders in our network. We're also trying to like go to conferences and present frequently, and we're continually promoting Twitter and our Twitter chats as a venue for personalized professional learning. So it's really grown. We really started really very small and not knowing very much about social media, even as an agency last year in terms of its power for professional learning. And it's really grown over time.
Thanks. Are there other questions among folks who are here for Michelle?
I have one question.
Hi, this is Jenny. Can you hear me? Oh, go ahead, Mary Lynn.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Yeah, I guess it says it's me. Anyway, you said when you were talking about the way they started with the Twitter, so was it almost informal at first and gradually it became more professional, informal sharing of material through informal sharing of ideas? So really taking advantage of the social aspect and move toward being more professional?
We actually started with Twitter chats and really more formal. And one of the strategies that we used to get people involved in the chats was to specifically invite individuals on Twitter to join us on a Twitter chat at a particular time, and we found that personal invitations actually is the most effective way to get sort of new teachers involved and on board. One thing that we tried to do was to incorporate Twitter into some of the LDC events that we had here, sort of like face-to-face, and we had some success with that, and what we try to like do is when people register for things, we have them share with us their Twitter handle. So if we know that they've been to an LDC training, we try and contact them afterwards and say, hey, we're having this Twitter chat. Join us at this date and time to talk about this content.
That's great. Thanks.
Was someone else asking a question?
Yes, my comment just quickly was that Michelle's group has been an incredible inspiration to LDC, actually, the way we're doing our Twitter chats, and I give her full credit for helping us really get that started. And when she said they'd only been doing it for a year, I thought, well, we can do that. So it's an inspiration, and I really, hats off to Michelle and her group.
Thanks, Jeannie.
That's Jeannie from LDC, by the way, everybody. Other questions for Michelle?
Well, we hope you all can join us on May 2nd for our tweet up, and we will be sure to share with everyone via Twitter and our website what time that chat will take place and a little bit more about it. So even if you are not here in Washington and you'd like to participate virtually, you can do so.
Great. Thanks, Michelle, so much for sharing. Okay, so again, Michelle's information is linked into the agenda. So the next thing I wanted to just, is we had our first LDC in Action webinar recently, and RFA, Research for Action, talked about the research that's been going on in the field around LDC, and what we're doing is we're posting a recap, plus you can also watch and listen to the webinars if you missed them. So we're hoping that that's a useful tool for everybody to have. And I wanted to preview our next webinar, which will be in March, on March 25th. And actually, David Pearson from Berkeley will be our guest participant, and we'll talk a lot about mini tasks, which I know, even listening to Michelle talk, I can hear that those are kind of very useful in the field right now. So we're hoping that you'll join us to talk to David Pearson, and we're really trying to make these less sort of presentation and more sort of some presentation and a lot of Q&A. And so you'll see on the blog write-up from the last webinar, there's actually one of the things I really appreciated was there are a lot of quotes from people who were on that meeting. It sort of brings it to life a little bit. So we're really trying to give you a chance to talk to each other about the work that you're doing. So that's March 25th, and those are from 8 to 8:45 p.m. Eastern Time. Are there, I don't know if there are going to be questions or comments about that. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the webinar series, or I guess requests for what you'd like to have topics?
Suzanne, this is Carol Ann. Will you just be sending us invitations to those like you did this last one as they draw closer?
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. We'll be sending them, we'll be posting them, and we will, of course, be tweeting about them now that we are becoming tweeters, if that's a word.
And they're always announced on Facebook as well.
Facebook, yes, Facebook. Okay. Other questions or comments about the webinar? Okay, so there's some things that we wanted to preview for you about what's going on in our world and resources that are available and we're trying to make available. One of the things that I wanted to share with you is one of the big questions that we have ourselves and that we hear a lot about from other people is about our curriculum library. And you know, we know it's a collection of really interesting and important work that's being developed by teachers around the country, and we're excited that the Good to Go library is getting bigger and bigger every day because we're hoping to add to that. But one of the things we're trying to figure out is how to make this useful and easy to navigate for you, both as project leaders but also as professional learning providers. So I wanted to share with you some of the work we're doing around that. And one of the goals we have is, I mean, we get a lot of calls and requests like, you know, I'm going to do this type of presentation with this particular group. Is there some module or mini task that is really the most useful? And so from our end, what we're hearing is that there are ways that we could better support you in using that curriculum library for specific purposes. So one of the things we've been working on and have been diving into is sort of trying to figure out a schema for what's in our curriculum library and how that relates to other schemas that are used in the various disciplines. So what I have here is a draft version of the social studies schema, which is our attempt to kind of think through the thinking and standards and sort of challenges that are raised with both in the C3 framework for social studies state standards, but also in various state social studies initiatives, and also, of course, through partners like SHAG and the Reading Like a Historian work. And so what we've tried to do, and you can certainly read through this on your own, is we've tried to, I'm going to look at the high school one first because it's probably our most populated one. We've tried to figure out sort of in our curriculum library what is in there, what disciplines we have available, what types of texts the modules focus on, and then what era, time and place, and or sort of historical context these modules represent. So certainly one of the uses we hope is that as people are thinking about how modules fit into units and courses, you will have some sort of information for directing or guiding people to look at certain modules at various times. But the other thing we're really hoping is that this helps us identify kind of holes or places where our collection is lacking, and that you, as you work with teachers out in the field, are thinking about, well, okay, so if you're going to put energy and resources into supporting modules for polishing, I would say, sort of polishing, I think is a lot of what happens is people submit modules for jurating nationally and think about even doing that, then these are sort of places where we don't have any. And so these are the ones we'd love to have. So this, I'll go down to show the elementary one. This we hope is sort of helps, will help you figure out how to navigate, and will also help you figure out where to put maybe some development energy. The other thing that we're hoping comes out of this is we're really trying to think about the curriculum library as a place that has specific examples of certain things. So, you know, if you are doing work with somebody and you know that it's primary text, well, then this can give you some guidance for how to help work with a teacher. You might look at these modules and see how these teachers decided to examine and analyze primary text in their work. So we're just trying to figure this out in ways that are helpful to you. There's a science and an ELA one also in the works, and we'll be sending these out for feedback, and we hope that you will give us lots of feedback. But I wanted to mention that they're there. And because that's kind of a newer thing, maybe I'll stop and see if you have any reactions or comments or requests, like what should be in here? What would you like to have in here that would be useful to you? And Dana, can you unmute people?
Yeah.
Susan, I wish it could be simpler. Questions, comments, or requests for where we should be headed if this is at all useful? As you're thinking of your questions, I will point out that the other thing that's in here is, you know, one of the focuses in C3 is this notion of compelling questions, and so there's sort of ideas for possible what that means in terms of LDC modules or LDC teaching tasks, however they're used. And then at the end, you'll see that there's a real connection between specific skills that are part of historical thinking and historical understanding and LDC definitions, skill definitions. And then obviously there's connections to C3 if you happen to be in C3 state, and that helps you organize. So Kelly, it would be great to make this available to people. Yeah, I think that's the goal, right? Like that this becomes a living document and or navigation pathway through core tools so that you can use this to kind of help you figure out what to look at. Yes, and exactly, Heather. I think that's what we're trying to figure out is, we have certain ways of searching, but are there alternate ways, particularly related to standard, that would help you navigate. So, other questions or comments?
Suzanne, this is Amy. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I think this is awesome, first of all, and I'm super excited about it. Is the idea just to have like one for each of these boxes? Or I see like there's one box that the US 1800 to 1865 has two. So are you thinking of putting exemplary as many as you get or some kind of cutoff? Does that question make sense?
I think as many as we get, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think you can see, like, if you look at the high school, one of the things that was really noticeable as we looked at this is, like, look at the bottom two sections, right? People aren't sharing with us a lot of work related to non-U.S. Historical thinking. So,
yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be super useful. The more districts I work with, the more we talk about approach where multiple teachers are teaching the same module, and having something like this where they can match their content and then work with others to modify it.
Hey, listen, I am on a community meeting.
All right, we have somebody who's we can hear the message. Yeah, I mean, I guess another thing, Amy, is that it's also kind of interesting to me because I've had some districts say lately, well, before we dive into developing modules, wouldn't it be wise sort of to see what our year-long standards are and topics and products that we want to build, and then if there are modules that already exist in some of those, we won't build there. We'll build in other places, or whatever. There's a variety of things. Okay, so just so you know, we're hoping to keep developing that kind of work. Courses that we're working on is the partner collections, and I hope you've all discovered how to make a collection in Core Tools, and we are hoping that you'll be able to use that feature to build your own sort of internal collections for your own organizations, but also collections for the rest of us in the world. So if you, Amy, if you guys have a Colorado collection of mini tasks you want to share, or Marshall, you have Arkansas, or whatever it is that you have, there's the opportunity to make private to your own folks and then also public to the rest. So I hope you'll explore that. I want to remind people of the PD models folder. We've got a lot of interesting PD models in here now. Organizations have been nicely sharing with us all the different PD models, so make sure you check out what's in these folders. The resources are attached, links are attached, and the different ways people are using PD or all that. We're excited about a partnership with Battelle with some of the Battelle scientists and science educators, where we hope to develop more prototypes similar to the AMNH work. And if you are I see some of these questions coming in like CTE. Wouldn't it be great to have a CTE module template, Carol Ann Duke? So anyway, we're hoping to develop prototypes more and more as we get. The ones that'll go in there, yes, I did know you would ask. The ones that go in there, we have Paideia coming in there, and we have the AMNH one coming in, but of course the more we get, we'll make them available in the drop-down menu as people design from prototypes. So Links We Love is another document that we're trying to keep interesting and available to the community. So as you come up with links that you love and want to add them here, this is a resource, we hope. A lot of these resources now, the ones in pink, are all primary source docs that have tons of different types of primary source documents that teachers can use if they're looking for that design work. We are, as you saw in the YouTube, I don't see it, but in the YouTube library now, the LDC YouTube library, we're adding more and more videos, and we're hoping that you have videos and that you have protocols for professional development, and please share them with us. We'll start posting them in our community meeting folder and make them available to everybody, and we want to share them out to the world. And then the last thing I want to remind you of is our feedback mechanism. So if you, we take this really seriously, and we use this feedback, all the feedback we get. So if you have feedback to share, please send us your comments. The new resources we have that I want to just highlight are some one-page kind of overview materials about LDC and how LDC works. And these we're hoping are useful to you in your work. There's one about what's available in terms of LDC resources. There's one about LDC, and then there's one about different learning pathways, which describe a sort of a year-long journey for teachers through LDC thinking. We also have this very awesome, Susan and all these folks you can see on top, people who've contributed to this, Susan Weston, along with Carol Ann Duke and Kelly Galbraith and Marilyn Huey and Rachel McCormick, sort of a quick check for an instructional ladder. So if you're developing screening or you're trying to figure out how to read an instructional ladder super quickly, this is supposed to take 5 minutes, right? Susan, I'm assuming. Mary Lynn, you guys have tested this out. So these are kind of quick questions.
I would say,
yeah, go ahead.
I would say 5 minutes after you've worked on it a couple of times. So there's a figure out what it means. It might take 15 minutes on the first and 10 on the second. But the most important thing to me is actually I touch my screen. When I do this for a bunch, I end up with fingerprints on my computer. To make myself just look at the product, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just look at the scoring guide. And that lets me spot the really early basic, didn't provide a good enough explanation issues, so I can double back to a teacher and say, here's the thing I should clarify about how to fill things in. Then it's 5 after you get in the groove.
Great. So we know a lot of you, I know SIB, you guys are doing a lot of formative jury work, and in lots of the different states and communities you're doing. So that we hope is useful, and we expect feedback. So please tell us how useful it might be. All right, so the last portion is I'm hoping to hear from you, some of you, about upcoming events that you have coming up. So PK Young on February 20th, I believe, no, 19th, has an event where they have an open learning lab, and we heard from Christy Gabbard last time about that, so that's linked in here. The next LDC Twitter chat is in March. The ASC webinars are coming up. The National Board Conference on Teaching and Learning is happening in Washington, D.C. in March, and we actually are doing a jurying design studio there. We do have about 25 spots left, so if you have teachers or coaches who are interested, please sign up to come to a jurying studio, and you'll get buddy tickets to attend the National Board Conference, which is a nice additional treat for coming. So Marshall, you have an event coming up in Arkansas, and would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We are lucky enough to where my boss, the director of professional development, we got together to talk about some things we would like to do over the summer. So he said, if you can come up with something, I'll see if I can get the funding for it. And so here's what we came up with. June 17th and 18th, we are going to have a mini state conference for administrators and teachers to come together and share ideas, basically. And so we're going to have we're going to have 42 breakout sessions during the 2 days that will be hosted by teachers and administrators and trainers within the state to share what they've done over the course of their LDC experience. Suzanne is going to be our keynote on the second day, and we're going to have AET in there to tape Suzanne's her presentation, and we're going to do some other things and kind of create some marketing materials to be able to use throughout the state. And again, this is free for our teachers to attend in Little Rock, and we've even found enough money to where if they commit to hosting one of the breakout sessions, then we'll be able to pay for their hotel room that night also. So we're pretty excited about the opportunities that we're going to have for that conference.
So questions for Marshall or comments? Marshall, a lot of the people on this call have had sort of statewide, I know the Kentucky folks, and I don't know if there's anybody from Florida or NLP on who does this, but questions or comments for Marshall as he plans his meeting? So the other thing I would say is, if just for my own learning, is if you have events like this happening in your state, please let us know about them so we can try to publicize them and come and just support you in your work. So we're delighted to be able to go to Arkansas. And then the big SREB annual College and Career Readiness Standards Networking Conference is happening in Atlanta. And Daniel, I think you have some things to say about that.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we're very excited to have our third annual networking conference. And this conference is going to be the best one yet. Last year we had over 1,000 teachers come. We had experts from all over, including Melinda Gates as a keynote speaker. This year we hope to have another fantastic keynote speaker. And there's really 3 main objectives to this conference this year. The first objective is teachers are going to get tools and strategies for introducing, improving, and deepening LDC practices across grade levels. These are going to be sessions run by some of the best in the field, your Carol Ann Dukes, your Mary Lynn Hueys, your Don Kirkwoods, some of the people who have really gone out into the world and have demonstrated sort of a real understanding of LDC and are able to share some of the best practices. And then a second goal is to help people find solutions to effectively spread LDC. And we know that it's not possible for our organization to touch all the teachers we need to affect to make an impact. We need to find ways to use PLCs, to use collaboration, to use virtual collaboration, to effectively move LDC beyond the people that we're training. So that's sort of our second goal, with sessions around that. And then our third goal is about helping sort of share the voice of practitioners in the field. People who are, struggling through everyday teaching and learning and using these tools in their classrooms in interesting and innovative ways, and sharing how they've overcome a variety of challenges and found solutions to those challenges. So those are our 3 main objectives. There'll be 60-minute sessions, there'll be deep dive sessions, there'll be longer institutes for training trainers, and there'll even be some roundtables. We're going to be using some really exciting technology this year that we're sort of an innovative social media functionality that's going to be really interesting. So this is going to be a fantastic experience for teachers, whether you're new to LDC or whether your teachers are experienced or anywhere in that spectrum. It'll be wonderful. Another quick thing I want to mention is last year we had stipends for teachers to attend, and we're hoping to have that again. We haven't had anything solidified yet, but stay tuned to that, because that's a great opportunity for teachers who agree to work in pairs and agree to collaborate with an expert and a newbie to come together and experience the conference together. Last year we had funds for that, and we're hoping to get that again. So we'll keep you posted and follow along with ldc.org as well to learn more about it. I put the link
Daniel,
in
I actually have a question. Are you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you looking for presenters as well as teachers to attend? I mean,
absolutely.
The people on this call are the kind of people who have access to great teachers who might want to present.
And that's a big thing. So presenters for those different categories. As you think about presenters, people that can share either their stories, who have really great stories or experiences or strategies for spreading, or are just masters of the trade. We'd love for them to register. I don't know that the link is ready for proposals quite yet, but it'll be up next week. So we'll send out something to everybody when that comes up.
And then we could share it with people too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have people who will present. Did you want to say anything about the high schools at work, or is that?
It's going to be really about school reform, whole school reform. So if you know people who really transformed their schools and have had a purpose-driven school, and have sort of had a clear goal and reached it using some strategies sort of on here that you can see if you go to our page, please let us know so we can make them presenters as well.
Okay. All right. In the last few minutes, I just want to find out if there are any sort of comments or questions or other announcements that people have. Actually, Jody's just announced that Equip has released a call for submissions of lessons. And just for those of you who don't know, Jody is actually the author of an LDC module that was included in the Equip exemplary collection. So modules count, right, Jody?
She got away. No, I'm here. I was muted. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Equip has just put out a formal call. So if you go to that link that I have there over on the right-hand side, when you get to the link, there's information as to how to submit. They are also offering a stipend for any unit or lesson that receives an exemplar status. They've received some sort of funding for that now.
Okay. Wow. Great. Other questions, comments, announcements? Things you'd like to share? No? All right, everybody. Well, thank you for spending an hour, and thank you for putting up with my technology challenges there at the beginning. It's always great to hear from folks, and I always hear really inspirational stuff on these kinds of things. So I appreciate Kristen and Michelle sharing their work. I think that's it.